Retirement planning used to focus almost entirely on saving and investing, but today, the far bigger variable is where that money must last. Across much of the country, housing, insurance, and local taxes have risen so steadily that Social Security and small pensions are quietly losing purchasing power every year. At the same time, a smaller group of states has managed to keep costs restrained, allowing fixed income to stretch further without constant financial stress or unpleasant surprises. This growing divide is why more retirees are reevaluating where they live before their budgets break completely. In this video, we'll break down the 10 best states where Social Security and modest pensions still work, starting with number 10, Ohio. Picture a place where costs behave themselves, where housing does not sprint ahead of wages, where retirement math stays boring, predictable, and survivable. That quiet stability is the real reason this entry belongs on the list. Housing sits below the national pressure line because speculation never really took hold. Builders kept supply steady. Investors never piled in. The result is simple math. Typical home prices remain reachable. Rents stay anchored. Property taxes avoid wild swings that wreck fixed income plans. Healthcare access matters here. Medium-sized cities spread across the state create redundancy. If one system gets expensive or crowded, another sits an hour away. That competition keeps pricing from running loose and gives retirees options without coastal premiums. Transportation costs stay reasonable. Fuel prices track below national averages. Insurance remains manageable because congestion and catastrophic weather risks stay lower than many alternatives. Everyday errands do not quietly drain accounts month after month. Taxes complete the picture. Social Security income is not taxed by the state. Retirement income receives favorable treatment. That single rule quietly preserves thousands over a decade, even before accounting for lower housing and utility costs. For those considering RV ownership, storage, maintenance, and registration costs trend lower here, reducing surprise bills. That matters when discretionary travel depends on fixed income staying intact year after year without unexpected financial strain appearing. None of this feels glamorous. That is the advantage. When markets chase excitement, prices spike. When places stay practical, numbers hold. Stability becomes a feature, not a flaw. There are trade-offs. Winters arrive. Gray days linger. Some regions move slower than others. But slow pricing is exactly what protects long-term plans built on Social Security and modest pensions. This is not about finding perfection. It is about avoiding financial surprises. Fewer surprises mean fewer forced decisions later. Hold that thought, because the next location lowers costs further, but introduces new compromises that demand careful planning. Kentucky. It starts with cost control, not scenery or slogans. This state stays affordable because it never chased explosive growth. Prices here move slower, and that restraint protects fixed income better than promises ever could. Housing sets the tone. Home values remain below national averages across most regions, especially outside Louisville and Lexington. Smaller towns hold steady pricing because demand stays local, not speculative. That keeps purchase costs reasonable and long-term ownership expenses predictable, which matters far more than a flashy entry price. Daily spending follows the same pattern. Groceries stay modest. Utilities remain manageable through hot summers and cold winters. Transportation costs do not spiral, even with regular driving. None of these categories deliver surprises, and predictability is the real asset here. Taxes reinforce that stability. Social Security income is not taxed at the state level. That alone preserves thousands over time. Property taxes remain moderate, and overall tax pressure avoids the aggressive creep seen in faster-growing states. Healthcare access is the trade-off that requires planning. Major metro areas provide solid hospital networks, but rural regions thin out quickly. Living closer to population centers reduces travel time, fuel costs, and logistical stress. That choice matters financially, not emotionally. Kentucky also benefits from cultural practicality. Communities prioritize function over trend. Infrastructure spending focuses on maintenance rather than expansion experiments. That mindset keeps costs from ballooning quietly in the background. This is not a place that reinvents itself every decade. It refines what already works. For anyone budgeting carefully, that consistency is powerful. That difference shows up monthly, yearly, and eventually determines whether savings stretch or quietly disappear completely. And now, the road turns north, where colder weather brings a different kind of discipline. The next state tests tolerance more than taste, but rewards it with numbers that grow harder to ignore as margins tighten and patience becomes a financial strategy rather than a personality trait. If this breakdown is already helping you see retirement differently, support the channel by liking this video and subscribing. Share your perspective below, because real experiences help shape future breakdowns and keep this channel focused on what actually matters financially. North Dakota. Cold shapes behavior before budgets ever enter the conversation. Long winters discourage speculation, limit population swings, and quietly anchor prices in place. That restraint is the foundation of why this state earns a place on this list. Housing remains controlled because demand never overheats. Smaller cities like Fargo, Bismarck, and Grand Forks grow slowly and deliberately. Home prices rise in inches, not leaps. Property taxes stay predictable. Insurance costs remain tied to reality, not replacement hype. That consistency protects long-term planning. Daily expenses follow the same logic. Groceries cost slightly less than national averages. Utilities run higher during winter months, but summer costs stay low enough to balance the year. Fuel prices trend below national norms, which matters when distances are long and driving is routine, not optional. Healthcare is where expectations shift. Despite its rural reputation, this state delivers strong outcomes. Regional medical centers are well-funded, physician coverage remains stable, and patient loads stay manageable. Access requires proximity to population centers, but quality holds once that box is checked. Taxes stay modest. Social Security income receives favorable treatment, and overall tax burden remains controlled. There are no sudden surcharges hiding inside retirement checks. What arrives each month largely stays intact. Lifestyle here demands realism. Winters are long. Travel requires planning. Isolation can feel heavy without preparation. But those same factors suppress costs that spiral elsewhere. Housing stays attainable. Services remain priced for residents, not transplants. This state rewards patience, preparation, and tolerance for weather. It punishes impulse and convenience seeking. For those who understand the trade, the math works quietly and reliably. And next, the list moves toward a place where flat land gives way to open plains. Housing becomes even cheaper, and the balance between affordability and isolation grows sharper with every mile traveled southward. That reality separates careful long-term plans from regret-driven moves made without numbers or clear foresight. Kansas. Flat horizons tell the story before spreadsheets ever do. When land is abundant and growth is slow, prices stay grounded. That single reality explains why this state remains one of the most affordable places to stretch fixed income without constant pressure. Housing is the headline advantage. Home prices stay low because supply rarely tightens. Towns expand outward, not upward. Construction costs remain practical, and property taxes reflect usage, not speculation. Ownership here feels utilitarian, not competitive, and that protects long-term budgets from sudden shocks. Monthly expenses follow a similar pattern. Grocery prices remain steady. Utilities stay predictable across seasons. Fuel costs trend below national averages because travel distances are routine and infrastructure supports it efficiently. These are not dramatic savings individually, but together they stabilize cash flow month after month. Healthcare access is adequate when location is chosen carefully. Regional hospitals anchor mid-sized cities, while rural areas require planning and longer drives. Costs remain lower than many neighboring states because patient volumes are manageable and overhead stays controlled. Planning solves most issues before they become financial surprises. Taxes stay moderate. Social Security income receives favorable treatment, and retirement income deductions help preserve purchasing power over time. There are no aggressive municipal add-ons quietly eating away at monthly checks. The lifestyle demands acceptance of simplicity. Entertainment is modest. Amenities are practical. Communities change slowly. That lack of urgency keeps prices honest. What exists is built to last, not to impress. This state rewards patience, routine, and realistic expectations. It works best for those who value durability over novelty and predictability over convenience. As the countdown continues, the next state introduces deeper cultural texture and stronger sensory appeal, while keeping costs restrained. Food, music, and climate begin to shape daily life more clearly, adding comfort without immediately breaking the math that makes retirement feasible when income must last. That difference often decides success or failure. Louisiana. Heat changes behavior long before money does. Warm weather compresses seasons, keeps construction simple, and limits the kind of speculative rush that explodes prices elsewhere. That climate reality underpins why this state remains financially workable on limited income. Housing costs stay restrained because demand is uneven and growth stays localized. Outside a few pockets, prices move slowly. Property taxes remain modest. Insurance costs require attention, but overall ownership remains attainable without stretching budgets beyond repair. Planning location carefully makes the difference. Daily expenses reflect the same pattern. Food costs remain reasonable, utilities stay predictable, and fuel prices trend below national averages. These savings are not dramatic individually, but together they soften monthly pressure in a way that compounds over time. Taxes strengthen the equation. Social Security income is not taxed, and many forms of retirement income receive exemptions. That preserves purchasing power year after year, especially when medical and insurance costs rise elsewhere. Healthcare requires realism. Rankings sit low nationally, not because of lack of skill, but because of access gaps and uneven funding. Major systems cluster near population centers. Living near those hubs reduces risk and transportation expense. Distance changes the math quickly. Culture matters here. Communities are tight. Daily life is social, grounded, and routine-driven. Infrastructure focuses on maintenance rather than expansion, which keeps municipal costs controlled and prevents sudden tax spikes. This state rewards those who plan deliberately. It punishes impulse and assumption. Costs stay low because expectations stay realistic. As the list moves forward, the next state shifts away from coastal influence and deeper humidity. Housing drops further, property taxes tighten, the trade-offs sharpen, but so does affordability, creating a clearer divide between comfort and cost control that becomes impossible to ignore once budgets are tested over years, not months. That long view ultimately decides whether careful planning delivers stability or slowly erodes confidence when unexpected costs surface later without much warning. Iowa. Quiet consistency defines this place long before statistics appear. Nothing spikes suddenly here. Prices move slowly. Budgets breathe. That calm is the reason this state earns its position in the middle of this list. Housing stays affordable because speculation never took hold. Towns grow outward at a measured pace. Construction focuses on function, not flash. Property taxes remain controlled. Insurance costs stay practical. Ownership feels manageable rather than competitive, which protects long-term planning from sudden shocks. Daily expenses reinforce that stability. Grocery prices remain close to national averages. Utilities stay predictable through changing seasons. Fuel costs rarely surprise. Transportation expenses stay steady because infrastructure is maintained, not constantly rebuilt. These small consistencies matter when income does not rise. Healthcare access strengthens the case. Regional hospitals and clinics are spread evenly across the state. Travel distances stay reasonable. Outcomes rate well compared to states with similar costs. That balance between affordability and access reduces long-term financial risk. Taxes require attention, but trends favor restraint. Social Security income receives favorable treatment, and overall tax burden remains moderate. There are no sudden local levies that quietly drain fixed income over time. Community structure plays a role. Crime rates stay low in most areas. Services function reliably. Municipal budgets prioritize basics instead of expansion. That keeps fees stable and prevents surprise increases that disrupt monthly planning. This environment rewards patience and routine. It suits those who value reliability over excitement and predictability over prestige. Costs remain low because expectations remain grounded. As the countdown continues, the next state introduces sharper affordability and stronger tax advantages, but also greater regional variation. The math improves, yet planning becomes more location-dependent, creating clearer winners and losers within the same borders as fixed income strategies face their next real test. Those differences demand careful comparison, slower decisions, and honest budgeting, because the wrong move costs years, while the right one quietly protects stability long-term. If you want clear data-driven breakdowns like this, before decisions become expensive mistakes, make sure you subscribe. New videos track costs, trends, and timing, so you can stay informed, prepared, and ahead of changes that affect long-term financial stability. Oklahoma. Affordability becomes obvious the moment housing enters the conversation. Wide land availability and limited speculative pressure keep prices anchored to function, not hype. That single factor reshapes budgets faster than any tax credit ever could. Homeownership remains the defining advantage. Modest, single-family houses dominate most markets, keeping purchase prices within reach. Property taxes stay restrained. Insurance costs remain manageable outside known storm corridors. Maintenance expenses stay realistic because construction favors durability over excess. Daily costs follow through. Grocery prices remain below national averages. Utilities fluctuate with weather, but annual totals stay predictable. Fuel prices trend among the lowest in the country, reducing transportation costs that quietly drain monthly budgets elsewhere. Taxes reinforce the equation. Social Security income is not taxed. Retirement income receives deductions that preserve purchasing power. That matters more with time, because steady savings compound quietly year after year. Healthcare access varies by region and requires planning. Larger metro areas anchor hospital systems and specialty care, while rural regions demand longer drives. The quality exists. Distance is the variable. Choosing location carefully prevents later expense and inconvenience. Weather introduces risk that must be acknowledged. Severe storms occur. Preparation costs money. Insurance planning matters. Those realities are part of the price equation and cannot be ignored when projecting long-term expenses. This state rewards realism. It works best for those who value space, ownership, and low recurring costs over density and convenience. Housing does the heavy lifting. Everything else follows. As the list tightens, the next state pushes costs even lower, while introducing deeper humidity, older infrastructure, and sharper contrasts between affordability and access. The savings increase, but so do the consequences of poor location choice, making careful evaluation essential before any move becomes permanent. Those added words remind planning matters most when numbers decide outcomes rather than emotion or urgency alone. Long timelines punish haste and reward discipline, patience, and deliberate budgeting choices. Alabama. Heat defines daily rhythm here, shaping costs long before taxes enter the discussion. Warm seasons reduce heating expenses, simplify construction, and keep housing demand restrained. That climate reality helps explain why affordability remains strong when income is fixed. Housing sits at the center of the equation. Prices stay low because land remains available, and speculative pressure never dominated most markets. Property taxes rank among the lowest nationally, limiting annual surprises. Insurance costs require review, but overall ownership remains attainable without stretching budgets into risk. Daily expenses reinforce the advantage. Grocery prices stay modest. Utilities remain predictable across the year. Fuel costs trend below national averages, which matters when driving is routine rather than recreational. These steady categories quietly preserve cash flow month after month. Taxes strengthen the picture. Social Security income is taxed at the state level. Overall, tax burden remains restrained, allowing fixed income to stretch further than expected. Small savings compound over time, protecting long-term planning. Healthcare access demands realism. Quality exists, especially near larger population centers, but outcomes vary by region. Planning location carefully reduces travel costs and avoids later financial strain. Access, not capability, determines expense. Lifestyle here is straightforward. Communities move slowly. Infrastructure focuses on maintenance. costs remain tied to residence, not seasonal surges. That stability matters when income cannot adjust upward. This environment rewards discipline and patience. It favors those who value durability over novelty and function over appearance. Affordability is not accidental, it is structural. As the countdown narrows, the next state pushes costs even lower and taxes further downward, but introduces sharper infrastructure challenges. The savings grow, yet the margin for error tightens, making careful budgeting and location choice essential before committing to a long-term move that must work year after year without financial surprises emerging later. Long horizons reward caution, punish haste, and quietly confirm that steady planning outperforms impulse when resources remain finite over decades ahead financially. Mississippi. Low costs arrive immediately before any planning even begins. Prices sit close to the floor because growth never accelerated and speculation never arrived. That reality shapes every financial category that matters when income is limited. Housing costs remain among the lowest nationwide. Modest homes dominate most markets, keeping purchase prices practical. Property taxes stay extremely low, reducing annual drag on fixed income. Insurance requires attention, but total ownership costs remain manageable with careful location choice. Daily expenses reinforce the advantage. Grocery prices remain subdued. Utilities fluctuate with heat, yet annual totals stay controlled. Fuel prices trend well below national averages, which matters when driving is necessary rather than optional. These recurring savings quietly compound every month. Taxes are where this state stands apart. Social Security income is not taxed. Most retirement income avoids state taxation entirely. That structure preserves cash flow longer than almost anywhere else, turning small monthly checks into workable budgets. Healthcare introduces trade-offs that cannot be ignored. Quality providers exist, but access varies sharply by region. Larger population centers offer stability. Rural areas demand longer travel and careful planning. Distance, not skill, creates the cost difference. Infrastructure shows strain. Roads, utilities, and public services reflect limited funding. That reality keeps prices low, but requires realistic expectations. Choosing stable communities reduces surprise expenses later. This environment rewards careful selection and long-term thinking. Costs stay low because expectations remain modest. Lifestyle here is simple, routine, and community-driven. And last but not least, West Virginia. Mountain terrain changes the math immediately. Isolation limits speculation, slows population growth, and suppresses housing demand in a way flatland never can. That single geographic reality explains why costs fall further here than anywhere else on this list. Housing sits at the core. Prices remain deeply discounted because demand stays local and inventory turns slowly. Modest homes dominate most markets. Property taxes stay low. Insurance costs remain manageable outside flood zones. Ownership here is functional, not aspirational, and that keeps long-term budgets intact. Daily expenses follow suit. Groceries cost less than national averages. Utilities rise during winter, but annual totals stay below pressure points seen elsewhere. Fuel prices remain reasonable, which matters when travel distances grow longer and driving becomes routine. Taxes reinforce affordability. Social Security income receives favorable treatment. An overall tax burden stays restrained. Fixed income stretches further because fewer dollars leak out through state-level collection. Healthcare access defines the primary trade-off. Quality exists, but facilities are fewer and farther apart. Mountain terrain complicates travel. Planning location near regional hospitals matters more here than anywhere else on this list. Distance creates cost if ignored. Community structure favors stability. Towns change slowly. Infrastructure focuses on maintenance, not expansion. Municipal budgets remain cautious, preventing sudden tax increases that disrupt planning. This state works because it never tried to be anything else. It did not chase growth. It did not court speculation. It stayed grounded and prices followed. Affordability here is not theoretical. It is measurable. Housing, utilities, taxes, and daily expenses combine to create the lowest overall cost structure on this list. Retirement works best when expectations are realistic and costs stay predictable over time. Where you live quietly determines whether fixed income stretches or slowly disappears. If you've lived in any of these states or are planning a move on Social Security or a small pension, Share your experience in the comments to help others avoid costly mistakes. If this breakdown was useful, like the video and subscribe for more practical, data-driven retirement insights.